Show you how to solve Leetcode question 1091, shortest path in the binary matrix. So given our n multiplex n binary matrix or grid like this, for example, return the length of the shortest clear path in the matrix, and if there's no clear path at all, return -1. So a clear path in the binary matrix is a path from the top left cell, for example, 0, to the bottom right cell, which is n minus 1, n minus 1, which is the 0 here. So such that all the visited cell of the path are 0. So you're only allowed to visit 0. All the adjacent cells of the path are adirectionally connected. They are different and then they share an edge on a corner. So basically, you're allowed to move all 8 directions instead of like only up, down, 4 directions. So the length of a clear path is the number of visited cell of this path. So you basically wanted to return the length of the clear path in the end. Like for example, they give you a grid 0, 1, 1, 0 here, and then the shortest path from the top left to the bottom right is you're allowed to move 8 directions and also only move between cell of 0. So the fastest, shortest distance is moving this way. So then the distance of the clear path is 2. You want to return 2. So the number of visited cell of this path is, because it visits 0 and 0, that's why the visited cell is 2. So in this example here, and then you can see for a grid like this, because you're only allowed to visit 0, 0, and then this one is 0 here, and then 0, right? So and then this one, it returned 1, 2, 3, 4. So the output is 4 here. And in this example, you're not able to go to the bottom right cell because there's no 0 allow you to go through. In that case, you want to return the output as -1. So you can see that this is our interview question asked by Facebook, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Snapchat in the past 6 months. And for our question like this, and the first thing you can think of the shortest path and the best algorithm to solve this issue is absolutely buffer search. So buffer search, how you do this is that you want to basically append the beginning of the cell and the distance, as it count the distance, you count the cell as you visit it, so the distance should be starting from 1, right? So you want to, when you do buffer search, you want to make sure that you don't visit the same cell again. So you want to use a visit set, or any set that to add the cell that you have already visited. The other thing is that in the buffer search, you want to use a queue so that you can add the cell to the queue and then pop the cell out of the queue. When you popping from the queue, you want to add the cell's neighbor in all 8 directions, and then make sure that to repeat the process. And in the end, after you popping the entire queue, if there's no result, then you want to return -1. So that's basically the thought process, and I'll show you how to do this in the code. Defining the grid and length of a grid and rows and columns are equals to length of grid and 0 here. Define a grid, and if grid 0, 0 is none, or grid rows -1, basically the last cell on the upper right corner, calls -1, the right cell is none, then I want to return -1, right? So just rule out some edge cases. In that case, we don't even need to calculate. So then for the things, the cell that I visited, like I mentioned, I want to use a set to show the things that I visited. And then for the Q, I want to use DQ. And the value that I want to append to DQ at the beginning is actually 0, which is the rows and the columns are 0. So basically this cell, and for the next value I want to append is basically the distance, and the distance is actually final calculation of the clear path. And at the beginning I already visit the cell 0, right? So I want to set the distance as 1, so start a calculation. And then I want to visit for the set, I want to add the cell of 0 first to make sure that I don't visit again. So later on we're gonna have to use directions, because what I wanted to do is I want to visit the all 8 directions. So let me just add the directions in here, and all the 4 directions are 1 0, -1 0, and then the 0 1, and then let me add a 0 -1, and then the other one that I want to add is -1 -1, and then basically all 4 8 directions, 1 1, and 1 -1, and -1 and 1. Let me see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, it looks right to me. And then so then I want to start the while loop and while queue, and then I want to pop from the queue. The value that I want to pop is the row and columns and distance, and then I could say Q pop left. It's basically pop the first value, right? Well, I pop the first value, I want to add its neighbors, but after this is the base condition. After I added, in the end, if the row equals to rows -1, it's basically the right lower column. If I reach this and the C equals to cos -1, in that case, I want to return the value distance. So that's when I'm reaching the this cell, then I want to return this value. So then the next, what I'm gonna do is for dr dc in directions, in all directions, I want to add it all its neighbor, and I calculate the new row and the column number. So the new row and col should be equals to r plus dr, and c, the column, plus dc. Yep, that will be the calculation. Then I want to check it's all directions, right? But we're not going to be able to move to every single column in all 8 directions. So what we wanted to check is that first we need to make sure that it's actually inbound for the new row that we calculated smaller than the rows, and 0 smaller equals to 0 smaller equals to col, and smaller than the cols, basically inbound, and also the new row and the col, basically all the neighbors. Make sure that not in visit, we have not visited yet. And then also we want to make sure that for the grid and row col is equal to 0, because we're not allowed to move to the cell that is 1. So if they meet all the requirement, we can move to this cell, and then after we visit, we want to make sure we add the row call that we visited. And then after that, we also want to queue append this value to the queue, and basically is the row colon the new one. And then we want to say the distance, we want to +1 in this case because we added one more cell to this queue, then so that we get a calculation right. And after the entire while loop, and if I can reach to the cell that I want to return -1. So that's all the code. Let's see if it works. Okay, it went through. Wrong answer. Let's see. Row calls if grid set and the queue appended all 8 directions 1 0 -1 0 1. Oh, the directions. This is like super confusing. Yeah, I forgot. It should be -1 in this case. Let's calculate. Okay, it went through. If you think this is helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you with more Leetcode questions.